Number 2, Betty Schaefer out of Rosetta, sponsored by Advanced Auto Parts, and that's multiple lead machines. Nathan Webb is in the number 83 out of Atwater, sponsored by the Atwater Nursery. Here comes David Narr in the 53 out of Roottown, sponsored by Hot Dog Racing. Adam Somerville is on the track in the number 38 out of Suffield, sponsored by Taylor Construction and Suffield Carryout. Right now, I don't have any info on the 0.6.5. Somebody would call me with that information. The trailer, please. The 0.6.5 from the NRD. Number 15, Zach Costner out of Rosetta. Sponsored by the Well Doctor. Here comes the Well Doctor's other machine. That's the 61, Doug Morey out of Atwater. Sponsored by the Well Doctor and there comes in number 12, Scott Berkeley out of Atwater, sponsored by Stephen Shindig Realty. I've still got a couple of vehicles on the list, no more than 69, 77, 401C, and then 12. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the axes are laying up many cars. This is the big party round for the many cars, and they are going to battle it down to the last many car run. Again, the last run is over. 38 of Madison Somerville was going off the side, trying to make the run at the lead. It's them up in the front end. Looks like that's 38. Good going. Going around. This thing's running in the time. Lower it in to 0.6 and a half. Exactly what he does in third period. Yep. Vehicles are left and right. And we're going to be paying the top three. One of these drivers is going to have so that number 38 keeps on coming. It'll call up for a minute. They think somehow get a refire. It's like the 83 of James Webb stalled out. They sometimes get it on 14. Somerville really trying his best to get his vehicle moving around. We could see earlier on, he definitely lost something in the steering of that. He turned the wheel. It just doesn't. Fired up right now. Desperately trying to get. I don't know if this is just off or something in the drive. And that's demolition derby tonight. What a great show. He's past 38. Right. Start up for us. Once again, we can get back in there. Getting to the end with that number 38. We got a wild ride down at the other end. Number 14 again, Lexington, circle on the wagon with the number 2, Buddy Schaefer. Right in the middle of that, Jason Webb getting spun around. Jason Webb appears to be on the timer. Number 83. Number 14, Jen Lovejoy, trying to get out of the way. The number 2 is on his right at the last minute. Buddy Lovejoy comes in the picture. Sliding off to the side. Stipulating that the third place finisher tonight is going to be the number 83, Jason Webb. Out of Atwater, sponsored by Atwater Nursery, will be the third place finisher in tonight's mini car feature event, which means we are down to just 2 automobiles. Will be Dangerous number 2 will play two out of the sponsored by Advanced Auto, and the number 14 is Jen Lovejoy out of Diamond, currently battling it out. Jen Lovejoy has got 3 of his 4 tires touching the track surface. Right rear, kind of hold it up. This is off the track. It may not appear that these guys are hitting too hard, but I guarantee you we're sitting inside of what we've received. All that energy is being transferred directly to the driver. It's a lot harder hit. One may imagine. Right now, Buddy Schaefer in the number 2 out of Ravenna. And hold him up. Just going out to maybe check on something that the checker, because the number 2 is going to be the first place finisher. That's Buddy Schaefer. Second place is the number 14, Ken Lovejoy, out of Diamond. And of course, in third tonight is going to be Jason Webb out of that car in the number 83, sponsored by the Atwater Nursery. All 3 of those drivers are getting a prize money tonight. First place $500, 10th place $300, third place $150. Webb in third place in the 83, second place Jen Lovejoy, 14 and 13 for number 2. Number 31 out of Newton Falls, sponsored by Premier Lawn Care. A familiar name, Karen Hood out of the Randolph, Denver, number 27. They're out here, looks like a fresh automobile. Nice fancy paint job. And the number 10, Roger sponsored by Mango Metal and the 29X non-hammer. there. Hold him up. Let's turn it loose and started. So, belting out on that 44 TX here. Out of Randolph, coming into the line. 29 Don Capper trying to get his front out where it's at. Looks like he's got some serious issues on that 29X. He's starting to feel frank. But he does not really get a whole lot. The 44 TX. Battling it out. And we got two of them steaming right up there. Like number 29, Don Capper. Overflow tube dancing around. Make contact on both of them. Off the road. Rootstown. Third place, Don Capper out of Ravenna, the 29X. And in the 86, Brian Schumann out of Carrollton. Then all four of them will be money-paying spots. All four of them are Karen Emerson from her number 27, Victoria, as your winner of round 2 of the Smash Demolition Derby. There's the 2009 Portage County Randolph Fair. Karen Hood taking home the first place prize. In second place, about to go home with 44 TX.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Third place, Don Capper, the 29X, and the 86, Brian Schumann, will be receiving prize money tonight. Congratulations to all the drivers, and on behalf of Smash Demolition Group, we want to thank everybody for coming out to the show.
And in the number 14, the 145, driven by Brian Wolf out of Rootstown, sponsored by Dragon Towing. The 911, Ben Schneff out of Ravenna, sponsored by 4 Rednecks by Rednecks. Michael McLaughlin's in the 15 out of Suffield, sponsored by his mom. The number 53, David Knorr out of Rootstown, sponsored by Hot Dog Racing. The number 38, Adam Somerville out of Suffield, sponsored by Taylor Construction and Suffield Carryout. The 715, Chris Villers out of Ravenna, sponsored by Collision Craft. The number 69X is Jeff Davis out of Rootstown, sponsored by the Triple H Derby team. And that was Jason Webb in the number 83 that snuck in. Had a problem reading his number, had a little bit of mud on there, but he's here out of Atwater and sponsored by the Atwater Nursery. 2, 1, let them go, and the action's now underway in Heat 1 of the mini cars here at the Smash It, Crash It, Tear 'em Up Automobile Demolition Derby. Already the hard-hitting action starting. They wetted the track down just a little bit, but it doesn't look like it slowed the buzz bombs down much, because the 69X Jeff Davis heading all the way down to the end of the track to make contact with the number 14 of Ken Lovejoy out of Diamond. The 715 of Chris Villers going back-to-back and bumper-to-bumper with David Knorr in the number 53. And they've got some steam built up. They're stacking them 3 deep down at the east end of the track right now. And if you were here last night, that's a familiar sound. The number 38, Adam Somerville, holding his foot to the floor in that yellow and black machine. And now you can hear why the Buzz Bombs have got their name. These high-revving 4-cylinder machines have a slightly different sound to them than their larger counterparts. But they definitely are able to pick up a lot of speed and put on quite a good show. And you can see that the front-wheel drive cars are a little bit rough to manipulate as they're going back in the reverse gear with your drive and steer tires on the same axle. A little squirrely from time to time, but these drivers definitely figure out what's going on and put on one heck of a show. The 13 Triple X Seth Kumos making the breakaway down to the far end. Following him up is Jeff Davis out of Rootstown, pushing him down at the end. The number 15 wants a little bit of that action right now. Is Michael McLaughlin out of Suffield. But look at the number 38 go. He was coming down, and the 53 is going to split the difference. That's David Knorr out of Rootstown, sponsored by Hot Dog Racing. But keep your eye on the 14. He wants some of that. That's Ken Lovejoy out of Diamond. I think last night the number 38 had some problems and lost his front tires, and this is going to be a good solid hit out of Seth Kumos in the 13 Triple X. He had a lot of time and opportunity to make his way down the track and put a good hit on that poor soul sitting there. The number 14 making his way down there, Ken Lovejoy. He was right in front of Jason Webb in the 83. Jason Webb's going to head back east right now to get jockeyed around for position, but the number 38's not going to give him a lot of time. Adam Somerville and Jason Webb mixing it up right here at Track Central. The 715 of Chris Villers is going to make contact with the 69X of Jeff Davis, spinning him around over there in front of the main grandstand. It looks like Chris Villers not sure what's going on with the 15, but he's got a lot of sparks coming out from there. I don't know exactly what's happening. We'll have to keep an eye on Michael McLaughlin's number 15 vehicle. There's a lot of hot something being dropped on the track. And that's another good reason from time to time that the referees make sure that there is no gasoline either on the track or anywhere around there, because you can imagine what one of those hot embers would do to just a little bit of gasoline. The 38, Adam Somerville, finally coming to rest right next to the number 53 of David Narr. Over on the east end, we have a few of them dropping off already. The number 13, Triple X Seth Kumos, looks like he finally came to rest. He was putting on a great show out there, but it looks like the car just finally had enough for the evening. The 911 of Ben Schnepp. Ravenna's having a little bit of problem. He's running, but that thing is starting to get tired. I believe most of these cars probably ran last night. They all look mighty familiar. And I'd say they had one heck of a workout last night. The 145 of Brian Wolf, I believe, is the other vehicle on the other side. Having some problems right now, but the 14 still running strong. Ken Lovejoy right at track central. Next to the 715 of Chris Billers, and the 911 trying to get his vehicle restarted. That's Ben Schnepp again. It was looking a little sluggish, but the 14 of Ken Lovejoy going back-to-back with the 38 of Adam Somerville out of Suffield. He's down there next to the 69X of Jeff Davis and the 53 of David Narr. Chris Miller's got the 715 refired. That met with a lot of approval from his cheering section, and he made a quick beeline down to the number 53 to make contact with David Narr. Following him up very closely was Ken Lovejoy in that number 14. And look how the 715 is just getting shorter and shorter as this heat progresses. Looks like the bottom's starting to fall out under the passenger door on that 715. He's got a little bit of damage to the underside of that as that vehicle's starting to crumble up. The 69X of Jeff Davis running strong. He's having to keep a close eye on the driver's doors. Again, the driver's doors are the safety zones that these drivers have, so they are not allowed to make contact, and they have to keep a close eye because you can imagine how small these vehicles are. They just don't have a lot of running room. Again, we are taking 6 of them. I see movement out of 6 and 1 on the timer, maybe 2 on the timer at present time. Definitely have 6 currently running. Looks like the number 83, Jason Webb, is on the timer, as well as the 715 of Chris Villers. And we do have an additional 6 automobiles running. And we will be taking 6. They changed it to 5. Oh, hold them up, hold them up. We got some fire underneath the number 15 out there. The driver trying to get out of that vehicle as fast as possible. That's Michael McLaughlin out of Suffield making a quick exit. But that thing was running hot for quite some time. But the number 15 was dropping some hot embers for a while, and he lasted as long as he could. And Michael McLaughlin put on a great show during this. Of the fire that we had at hand. Were we still taking 5 or 6 on this? They did change it to 5.
19911.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, and it does look like the 911 of Ben Schneff is going to be getting the checkered flag to move him on into the feature event. That's the number 38 you're looking at right now. He's going to take the checkered flag Adams Somerville out of Suffield, sponsored by Taylor Construction and Suffield Carryout.
83, I believe, was the one he got before he was solid.
The 69X, Jeff Davis out of Rootstown, sponsored by the Triple H Derby team. Also the number 14, Ken Lovejoy out of Diamond. And was the 53 down at the far end on that as well?
What's the 5 and 6?
What's that?
What's the 5?
Sponsored by Safeco Heating, the number 12, Scott Berkeley out of Atwater, sponsored by Geneva Shinvik Realty. Number 2 is Buddy Schaefer out of Ravenna, sponsored by Advanced Auto Parts. And here comes a familiar sight. That is the number 61, Doug Morey out of Atwater, sponsored by the Well Doctor and Geneva Shinvik Realty. The 401K, Jay Schill out of Rootstown, sponsored by 3 C's Towing. Give them a countdown, starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let them go. And right now the action is underway. Everybody jockeying around for position. The number 15 right at track central, Zach Kutchner, sponsored by the Well Doctor. But keep an eye out. The number 77 is on the move, and Ron Goodspeed just folded up the number 61. And that is definitely leaving a mark on that machine. He's bebopping around. And boy, that really did a number on Doug Morey's number 61. Didn't knock those fancy lights out, though. They're still blinking up on top of that number 61. And you can see the Well Doctor's sponsored machine still running down at the far end of the track, trying to get jockeyed around. Like the 401K, Jay Schill took a heck of a hit on the rear of his vehicle, opened it right up. Looked like the skin is off the rear side of that passenger rear door. He's still running strong, going to be taking another hit at present from the number 12 of Scott Berkeley out of Atwater. The number 2, Buddy Schaefer out of Ravenna in the Bumblebee looking machine. Doug Morey, even after taking one heck of a hit, he's still dragging that thing around. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot holding that machine together after he took that earlier hard hit from Ron Goodspeed in the number 77. And he's definitely trying to till the track up. The number 15, buzzing right down the track, is Zach Kotchner, trying to shove a 77 right on out the end and into the next zip code. Number 2's got a breakout, and Buddy Schaefer's got some running room, and he put a little bit of a hit on Jay Schill in the 401K. Jay's going to be the only one out there by himself toward the east end right now, and he's going to line up and square up with the number 2. Buddy Schaefer in the number 2 Bumblebee machine, kind of nosing over there around the 61 of Doug Morey out of Atwater. And that machine's still running, but it looks like it's definitely trying to fold up right in behind where the rear driver's window went. Number 71 not showing a lot, the 77 of Ron Goodspeed not showing a lot of movement. He's trying to get refired. Tony Smith Jr. in the 06.5. Looks like he's reaching over toward the battery box, trying to get that thing going. Not seeing movement out of 3 vehicles. We got 4 of them still running, and it looks like 3 of them are on the timer. And the 401K has popped his out, and that's going to be it. The red flags are flying. The red flags are flying. So we're going to stop it here and let them have a little bit more vehicle when they battle it out in the big money round of the mini car feature. Again, we are going to be taking 6 of those in, waiting for the checkered flag to roll. 4 of those down at that end? 3. Okay, we're going to be the 77, Ron Goodspeed out of Kent. The number 12, Scott Berkeley out of Atwater. And we are taking the 61 of Doug Morey out of Atwater as well. The 6th one is the 401K. So he got Jay Schill out of Rootstown. Going to be moving on as well. Again, we ran it down to the 5, and the 6th one will be the 401K. Stevens out of Ravenna coming onto the track. Following him is going to be the number T91, Tim Novak out of Suffield, sponsored by Bud's Auto. Very nice vintage truck. That's Butch Baldessari, I believe, in the B3 out of Deerfield, also sponsored by Bud's Auto. The FC40, Scott Krieger out of Rootstown, sponsored by his wife and kids. The 1811X, Jeff Eldridge out of Suffield, sponsored by Eldridge Photography. The number 99X is Alex Block out of North Canton, sponsored by Voyers Construction. The number 164, Jeff Helmling out of Rootstown, sponsored by D&K Materials. That's the 8 and 11 25ths, Russ Heater out of Alliance with the bull horns up on top. Following him is going to be Buddy Loudon out of Mogador, the 8819, sponsored by Sunnybrook Concrete. Starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let them go. And the action's now underway in the large truck event. And we are going to be taking this down to the last pickup truck running. And we've got a couple older vehicles out there. The B3 of Butch Baldessari out of Deerfield going back to back with the FC40. And we got some speed build up on the 63 XXX Dan Kumos, and they got some running room. Hold on to your helmet, because that was one heck of a hit by the 1811X Jeff Eldridge. He had a lot of running room, and he took advantage of every little bit of it. Spun that pickup truck around and did some damage on the way. I believe that was the number 99X that was on the receiving end of that. That was Alex Block out of North Canton. These pickup trucks have a lot of running room. Oh my goodness, that one, the cab on that number 63 XXX is really folded in. He's got some serious damage to that. They're gonna have to keep an eye. Boy, he really took a wallop on Dan Kumos' machine. Slightly modified from what it just was here a few moments ago, and that's going to be a solid radiator hit on the 719 Shade Stevens. Looking right at the FC40 of Scott Krieger out of Rootstown. And Jeff Eldridge is going to get a whole lot of Scott Krieger's rear bumper on that last hit. Both of those guys drove last night the 8819 Billy Loudon out of Mogador. Oh my, the 719 Shade Stevens. Take it. Oh, hold him up, hold him up, hold him up, hold him up, drivers. Hold him up, hold him up. Looks like we're going to need something down here. Hold him up. We got, hold him, hold him. Stop your vehicles. Back underway right now. The 99X Alex Block out of North Canton having plenty of running room. He's down there mixing it up with the 8 and 11 25th of Russ Heater out of Alliance. Russ kind of nosing into the other vehicle. Can't quite make the number out. That's the 164 of Jeff Helmling out of Rootstown. Down at the west end, we do have the FC40 Scott Krieger, the 1811X Jeff Eldrith in the 8819. Billy Loden out of Mogador. On the breakaway, got a swing and a miss from Jeff Eldrith in the 1811X. Did have the 99X popping out at the end down there. They do want to try to keep all the action inside the concreted, barricaded track arena. Jeff Eldrith going to spin his around just before the FC40 of Scott Krieger could come into the picture. But again, likewise on all these other ones, we do have the safety zone of the driver's door. They do have to watch out for it, especially the cab of these pickup trucks are very small. And we can see what one hard wallop can do to one of these pickups. We have one currently out of action right now. He took a hard hit in the passenger side and really crumpled it up pretty well. Alex Block putting the hammer down, looking around to see who's going to be the next victim as he searches for an open radiator hit. And he sidestepped that and went for a back-to-back hit with Billy Loudon. All the pickups now migrated to the west end of the track. Two of them on the breakaway. The 8 and 11 25th for Russ Hader. There goes another tire that popped, and that was Jeff Eldrith. Looks like the right rear just met its match. That last hit, a lot of sharp pieces out there, stabbing the tires and popping them very quickly. The 88-19 of Billy Loden out of Mogador swinging around and going on the offensive after the 8 and 11 25ths of Russ Hader. Battle between two drivers at the east end of the track. It's going to be the FC40 of Scott Krieger getting jockeyed around. He's working over there on the 99X of Alex Block. And the FC40 saw an open radiator on the 8 and 11 25ths. Russ Hader took that. See, he now has a slightly modified hood on that machine. Referee's telling to watch it on the driver's door, but you can see the 164 kind of drifted into the path of the FC40 that was already in motion. I believe we are down to 6 pickup trucks left running. Again, we will be battling it down to the last pickup truck on the track that has life left in it. 99X of Alex Block taking a shot in the nose from Scott Krieger in the orange and black pickup truck. I think that might have just made contact. Yep, that popped the front driver's wheel on the FC40. That's going to slow Scott Krieger down just a bit. Also missing a tire is Jeff Eldrith in the 1811X. Jeff shed that tire, so at least he's got a little bit smoother ride now, but he does have a metal rim on the dirt track. He's going to get a little real estate between him and the rest of them running. It's going to open it up. And we're going to go down and pack them in track central. The 88-19 Billy Loden, the 99X Alex Block, and Scott Krieger getting shoved around in the FC40. Jeff Eldrith looks like his frame just kind of popped up in under the 99X, and he picked up the 99X. Momentarily hung up with him, but he got popped off with a little help and assistance from Billy Loden in the 88-19, and that was a hard hit from the 164 of Jeff Helmling out of Rootstown, sponsored by D&K Materials. Getting a free ride down the track is going to be Alex Block, who was sitting sideways. As you can see, that there's not a whole lot left for Jeff Eldrith's bed on the 1811X, but he isn't slowing up as he went back to put a T-bone hit on the 99X. Alex Block putting her in drive to go nose to nose with Scott Krieger in his FC40 machine. 88-19. Billy Loden back to back with a 164 of Jeff Helmling out of Rootstown. I believe right now we're down to these 5 vehicles. The 8 and 11 25ths of Russ Heater over on the other side at Track Central. Looks like he was unable to get that vehicle restarted. So 5 down and 5 to go at this moment in time. Looks like the FC40 taking another hit in the nose from Jeff Helmling. Jeff Helmling currently has his vehicle parked up in the engine compartment of the FC40 that Scott Krieger is piloting right now. Down at the other end, Jeff Eldrith in the 1811X has a lot of steam coming out from the front. He's done a lot of damage to that vehicle in the early going. Again, you can see what's left of the bed, and a whole lot of tires are being popped very quickly. And my, the 1811X just doesn't have a whole lot left to it. He's got somewhat of a shell and a lot of the skeleton showing. But Jeff Eldred's still able to keep his vehicle running as he noses over into the side of the 99X of Alex Block. Alex trying to get jockeyed around, but the problem is you can see Alex Block's steering wheel being turned quite frantically, but he just doesn't have anything hooked up. I believe he's lost something in the steering linkage of the 99X, and he's sitting sideways, but the 88-19, Billy Loden coming in to swing him around a little bit. Oh my goodness, Jeff Eldredith had to break away, used the nose of the 1811X as a battering ram as he went down into the side of the 88-19. Uh-oh, there goes the drive shaft. Doggone it. There goes the drive shaft on Jeff Eldredith's machine. That last one was just a little much. We are down to, I believe, just 2 vehicles. 2 of them left running right now. The 99X trying to get his vehicle squared around. He just doesn't have a whole lot of control of that pickup truck. Alex Block out of North Canton. Got a little puff coming out of the 88-19 of Billy Loden's machine. And a hush falls over the track. The 99X is fired back up. He's putting her in drive. Going to attempt to go down to make contact, but he has absolutely zero steering on the 99X. Looks like Jeff Eldred's telling him to come on, just bring it on down here with that pickup truck and make contact, which is exactly what he did. Alex Block, even with zero steering, Lady Luck's on his side. He got her headed in just the right direction as he keeps working on Billy Loden in the 88-19. Billy trying frantically to get his pickup truck restarted. Sparks just a-flying off the large trucks, and there it is. That's going to be it. Game over for the large truck event. Number 1 is going to be the 99X of Alex Block out of North Canton, sponsored by Boyers Construction. Second place is the 88-19, Billy Loden out of Mogador, sponsored by Sunnybrook Concrete. All the drivers in the pickup truck heat doing one heck of a job. We had the 1811X, Jeff Eldredith, not a whole lot. He was going strong, but lost the drive shaft. It popped out when he went down there. We did have the FC40 of Scott Krieger, who was here last night, battling it out with the 164 of Jeff Helmling. All of those drivers putting on a great show. We appreciate that, and we hope to see them next year. There's still a little bit. I see a couple vehicles out there that maybe 5 or 6 of them they might be able to bring back. What we're going to be doing next, ladies and gentlemen. Round starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let him go. And right now, again, the number 40 of Charles Dawes trying to work and find a reverse gear, which he does, and also have the 125 of Richard Sands out of Ravenna, sponsored by Mako Paint. Now, this is the stock class. You can see there's just not a whole lot done to these vehicles compared to the pro stock class. They do beef those up quite a bit more, and these cars have a lot hollower sound to them. They just don't have quite as many modifications done. But the 125 doing a little fancy footwork. That's Richard Sands in that fancy Mako Paint machine out of Ravenna, swinging his around like he's doing a little perfecting on his reverse rollouts. And already the 125 looks to be getting a little bit on the warm side, belching out some steam from the front. And behind him, Charles Dawes in the 40 getting swung around. Uh-oh. I don't think that's what, again, this being the stock class. That just gave him a little bit of help. Richard Sands in the 125 popped the 40 off. Charles Dawes getting a helping hand. And again, they're going to square up on one another to go in for a good back-to-back hit. And look how that metal just crumbled on the 125. Again, they don't do a whole lot of work to these vehicles whatsoever. Looks like it's removing the glass and some upholstery, and I think these guys may be wedged together at the present moment. We'll see if they're able to remove themselves from one another. And they're working it. I think the bumpers may just be, I think that's going to be able to work out if they can get it spun around. Almost. I think he's going to try to slingshot him over. Oh, right into the concrete. And we'll hold them up right there. We're going to need the, not quite sure, we're going to bring the skid steer. Yeah, we're going to bring one of those. And they're ready to turn them loose and let them go once again. And there you are, just mashing the trunk up on the 125. Richard Sands doesn't have a whole lot left after the last hit from Charles Dawes in the 40. Charles definitely coming out a little better on that. And they have a lot of space and time. And a swing and a miss. But I think with a little better judgment, I think for just a moment he was thinking about using the nose of his machine, but I think he thought it was probably a better decision to save the radiator, or what may be left of it, in Richard Sands' number 125. Hey, nice meeting you guys. Congratulations. Enjoy the fair. Okay. And the number 40, Charles Dawes, being pushed aside by Richard Sands. They were momentarily hooked up. They were able to get separated under their own power, and I think he's going to tuck his bumper right up in under the number 40. Try to pack him over toward the side concrete barricade. And it sounds a little quiet next to the 125. I think we've only got one of them currently running. Number 40, Charles Dawes, trying his best. He's got a little running room, and we got both of them refired. Well, we definitely know that the 125 is running warm. And this ought to be a good hit because they are lined up. And I think Charles Dawes is trying to park his car right up inside the trunk. He had his rear tire up inside of that trunk area, and it just got a little warmer. I think hold on to your helmet because here comes the number 40. Charles Dawes going to park up inside of there for a second time in a very short amount of time. And we've got another problem because the number 40 doesn't have any tires touching the track surface at present moment, but he did make the last contact. And it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of movement under Richard Sands' number 125. But he's got her fired up now. There we got him popped apart. The 125's had a rough night, and I think it's going to get a little worse right now after the number 40, Charles Dawes, coming into the picture. He made the breakaway, and I think he decided it's probably better to attack it from a little different angle so he's not getting his rear tires off the ground. Richard Sands on the timer. Time quickly slipping away on the 125. And I think that the 40 just got himself wedged in there after making last contact. And there's the red flags. Time has expired, so the number 40, Charles Dawes, out of Mogador, sponsored by Midway Auto, will be the first place finisher. Second place, with now a compact vehicle, is Richard Sands out of Ravenna, sponsored by Mako Paint. And the first one onto the track is Ken Lovejoy out of Diamond. Following him is Ben Schnepp in the 911 out of Ravenna, sponsored by For Rednecks by Rednecks. The number 2, Buddy Schaefer out of Ravenna, sponsored by Advanced Auto Parts in that Bumblebee machine. Jason Webb is in the number 83 out of Atwater, sponsored by the Atwater Nursery. Now sponsored by Hot Dog Racing. Adam Somerville coming on the track in the number 38 out of Suffield, sponsored by Taylor Construction and Suffield Carryout. That information from the trailer, please. The 06.5 from the mini car heat. The number 15, Zach Kochner out of Ravenna, sponsored by the Well Doctor. Here comes the Well Doctor's other machine. That's the 61, Doug Morey out of Atwater. Starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let them go. And the action's underway in the mini car feature event. This is a big money round for the mini cars, and they are going to battle it down to the last mini car running. Again, the last one running will receive the $500 first place prize. And keep an eye on the 38 because he has the hammer down. As always, that's Adam Somerville out of Suffield in the yellow and black, number 38. Jason Webb out of Atwater going down to the west end, making his way to track central, making a glancing blow off the number 15 of Zach Kochner. And the 15 is going to take a hammering, and it's going to be a 1-2 punch from the number 38 of Adam Somerville to 0.6.5 Tony Smith Jr. And the number 12 slowly making his way down the track, Scott Berkeley out of Atwater. Referee showing everything still running fine. David Narr going to take a radiator shot on the 15 of Zach Kochner. They're side by side with the 2 of Buddy Schaefer. The 0.6.5 Tony Smith Jr. still making some good contact. And Adam Somerville in the 38 getting spun around, but the number 14 found his groove, got some good traction, and Ken Lovejoy out of Diamond came back. He was followed very closely by Scott Berkeley in the number 12. He parked the number 12 right in the radiator compartment of that 14. Got a lot of sparks coming out from under the hood of the 61. Doug Morey out of Atwater. He's got those flashing discos up on top of that 61. And he had a wild night in the early goings of his mini car heat that he was in. Really took a wallop early on, and I think that may have done that in and really wore out the 61 early on. 38 in the same predicament. Adam Somerville out of Suffield over on the side. He's looking around. He's got her going. Adam Somerville back on the run in the number 38 automobile. The number 911, Ben Schnepp out of Ravenna. Taking a hit from Ken Lovejoy in that number 14. Buddy Schaefer in the 2 right at track central, looking back to see which one is going to be next on his hit list. And that is going to be the 0.6.5. But he's also in crosshairs of the number 15 of Zach Kochner. Zach just throwing caution to the wind and barreling down the track, using the nose of that machine to go head on with the number 2 of Buddy Schaefer down at the west end of our track. Ken Lovejoy in the 14 got some running room, and we had the 38 of Adam Somerville coming off the side trying to make some contact, but he's got some serious damage to the front end. Looks like he's having a little bit of a rough time steering the number 38. But he's got her going, looking around. It stayed running this time, and I think he's going to be zoning in on the 0.6.5 is exactly what he does. And Tony Smith Jr. taking a hit and pulling away from all the action. We've got a few of them dropping off pretty quickly. Also the 911 of Ben Schnepp showing a lot of movement. 61 of Doug Morey seems to be out at the present time. And the 53 of David Narr finding himself stuck up on top of that doggone concrete barricade. Not only is that, he just popped it off. David Narr into 53 unwedged himself. And I'll tell you what, the 14 put a good hit down at the west end on the 0.6.5. Tony Smith Jr. on the receiving end of a hit from Ken Lovejoy. And all of the action migrating out toward track central right now. The drivers peeking around. They're all nosed in the same direction except for the number 53 of David Narr. David's down there by himself. The 38 goes to pay him a visit. That's Adam Somerville out of Suffield. And it looks like we have some big problems with the number 15, Zach Kochner, trying to work his way around, but it's slowly but surely. That thing is getting a little bit weaker as time passes by in the mini car feature event. 38 is side by side with the 14 right now. The Ken Lovejoy machine is going to be going back to back and bumper to bumper with Jason Webb in the number 83. Jason working down there toward the west and center of the track. Right now, we're going to be stacking them 4 deep. The number 14 of Ken Lovejoy, the last one to come in to make contact with the 06.5 of Tony Smith Jr. Also in the middle was Buddy Schaefer in the number 2, and of course, Jason Webb in that 83. 38 of Adam Somerville is still trying to work his way off, but movement becoming very slow off the number 38. He's got to hammer down on that number 38. Adam Somerville out of Suffield making a breakaway in the Taylor Construction and Suffield Carryout sponsored automobile. I think it just sounded like we popped the tire on the 06.5. Boy, Adam Somerville's taken a couple hard hits on the passenger door of his 38. And he's going to get spun around pretty quickly by Ken Lovejoy and the number 14. Again, these cars are small, but they're definitely mighty, and the speed that they can pick up on these smaller tracks. We got some big problems out of the 06.5. Tony Smith Jr.'s got his rear bumper just digging into the track, pretty much anchoring him down at the position that he's in right now. Adam Somerville refiring the 38. He's got her going. And he's got it again. 38, Adam Somerville back to back with the 83 of Jason Webb. And the number 14, Ken Lovejoy, coming in to make contact with the number 2 of Buddy Schaefer. Kind of like running the gauntlet in the number 83, Jason Webb, trying to find the path of least resistance. He weaves his way through the mangled mess of vehicles. Right now, it appears that 4 vehicles are left running. Again, we are going to be paying the top 3. So one of these drivers is going to have to be disqualified. But that number 38 keeps on coming. It'll stall out for a minute, but he seems to somehow get her refired. Looks like the 83 of Jason Webb is stalled out. Jason trying his best to get his machine going. Number 14, Ken Lovejoy, currently finding himself nose to nose with Buddy Schaefer. And we still have a 4-car show as all of them are back running and battling it out for the top 3 money paying spot. And the number 38 kind of taking a wild ride after getting hit about all sides. But Adam Somerville's got his machine going, and this is going to be a good hit from the number 14 of Ken Lovejoy into the nose of the number 2 of Buddy Schaefer. The 83, Jason Webb, following very closely. And the compact of the number 38 becoming a super compact. As the metal gets smashed in further and further. Like the number 14, Ken Lovejoy, suffering the same problems. He's looking around to see where he can safely hit on these small vehicles. He has very small target areas. These cars are getting shorter and shorter with each and every hit. And Adam Somerville is really trying his best to get his vehicle moving around. We could see earlier on he's definitely lost something in the steering of that, because he's turning the wheel and just doesn't have a whole lot of control of the front, but he's got her fired up. Uh-oh. It fired up, but right now he's trying to desperately find a gear, and I don't know if his linkage just popped or something in the drive train of that 38 just popped. Uh-oh, I don't see a lot of movement out of Adam Somerville's number 38. Maybe that last hit by Jason Webb in the 83 might pop some things together. But it's not looking too good for Adam. Adam has driven an outstanding demolition derby tonight. Put on a great show. He's patting the 38, trying to nudge it to start up for him once again so he can get back in there. But I think that he's come to the realization that it may be the beginning of the end for that number 38. We got a wild ride down at the other end. The number 14 of Ken Lovejoy circling the wagons with the number 2 of Buddy Schaefer. Right in the middle of the mess is Jason Webb getting spun around. Jason Webb appears to be on the timer. He's not a lot of movement out of that number 83. The number 14, Ken Lovejoy, trying to get out of the way, but the number 2 caught him right at the last minute. Buddy Lovejoy coming into the picture and sliding off to the side. And it looks like the referee signaling that the third place finisher tonight's going to be the number 83, Jason Webb, out of Atwater, sponsored by Atwater Nursery, will be the third place finisher in tonight's mini car feature event, which means we are down to just 2 automobiles, 2 of those being the number 2 of Buddy Schaefer out of Ravenna, sponsored by Advanced Auto, and the number 14 of Ken Lovejoy out of Diamond, currently battling it out. Ken Lovejoy's got 3 of his 4 tires touching the track surface. That right rear definitely kind of folded up a few inches off the track. And it may not appear that these guys are hitting too hard, but I can guarantee you when you're sitting inside of one of these machines, all that energy is being transferred directly to the driver. It's a lot harder hitting than one may imagine. Right now, Buddy Schaefer in the number 2 out of Ravenna. And hold him up, hold him up. We got him going out to maybe check on something, but the checkered flag looks like it's going to fly because the number 2 is going to be the first place finisher. That's Buddy Schaefer. Second place is the number 14, Ken Lovejoy, out of Diamond. And of course, in third tonight is going to be Jason Webb out of Atwater in the number 83, sponsored by the Atwater Nursery. All 3 of those drivers are getting prize money tonight. First place $500, second place $300, third place $150. Again, congratulations to Jason Webb in third place in the 83. Second place Ken Lovejoy in the 14, and Buddy Schaefer in the 313, Robert Bloom out of Deerfield, sponsored by B&B Recycling Inc. 109, Dave Diver out of Kentfield. 008, Sean Blake out of Kent, sponsored by Moonlight Oasis. The number 86, Brian Schumann out of Carrollton, sponsored by Mango Metal. And the 29X, Don Capper out of Ravenna, sponsored by Team Easton. As you can see, this is not the stock class. Doesn't look like it, nor does it sound like it. So this is going to be an exciting event. A large car, big money round. Looks like the drivers are ready. The referees are ready. So let's give them a countdown, starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let them go! And the action's now underway at the Smash It, Crash It, Tear 'em Up Automobile Demolition Derby in the large car big money event. Already off the line, drivers jockeying around for the best position. It looks like most of them are migrating over toward the west end of the track. The X01, Sean Petrie, making the breakaway, aiming for the 44 DX of Todd Yoho out of Rootstown. Number 77, Larry Baldwin, going down the nose into the side of the 210 of Roger Donnell. Right in track center, the number 27 of Karen Hood out of Randolph, trying to make her way down. Looked like she momentarily stalled out, but she finally went down to make contact with the number 313 of Robert Bloom. And I think they just put the hammer down on the 44 DX of Don Siciliano out of Rootstown as he went back-to-back with the X01 of Sean Petrie out of Manaway. 008 coming into the... Looks like that is Sean White out of Kent. He's being followed very closely by Robert Bloom and the 44 DX Todd Yoho. Pushing Karen Hood down the track in that number 27. I think Karen's going to go back to repay the favor, which she does, making contact with it. We've got some strong running engines out here. I'd say that's the 44 TX. Todd Yoho putting the hammer down to battle it out with the 27. I'd say we've got some strong running pistons up under the hood of the number 86 as well. Brian Schumann out of Carrollton, currently parked in the nose of the number 31 of Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls. The 442 Chris Boggle out of Ravenna. And somewhat of a foot race. He was out there with the 88 Matt Bowling out of Alliance, and the number 29 X of Don Capper from Ravenna. Big problem for the number 77 as Larry Baldwin is finding himself up on the concrete barricade. This might get a little bit of help, which it does, out of the number 31. Eric Stevens taking a wild ride from the number 86 of Brian Schumann. Pops a number 77 off of the concrete barricade. And that puts Larry Baldwin right back into the action. Looks like a 31 and the 86 are tied together very tightly. But the 44 DX of Don Siciliano doing the best he can to get him popped off and taking advantage of those two being currently hung up on one another. The 29X is getting a hit in the driver's door right now. Don Capper out of Ravenna getting spun around pretty quick like. Todd Yoho out of Rootstown in the 44 TX, going to be going back toward the number 313. That's Robert Bloom out of Deerfield, sponsored by B&B Recycling, Inc. Karen Hood in the 27, trying to get her vehicle turned around. She's got her driver's door faced out toward the middle of the traffic, and she's trying to get her machine spun around. Before hold them up, hold them up, hold them up, drivers, hold them up, hold them up. Hold them up, hold them up, hold them up. We're going to stop the action right here. Hold them up. And we're ready to turn them loose and let them go. Looks like some shrapnel off of the track to make sure that it didn't get blasted up into the stands. We got a lot of mangled metal falling off of these vehicles right at present moment. That's going to be Roger Donnell in the 210. being followed very closely by the number 31 of Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls. And look what happens down there at the west end of the track. The number 210, Roger Donnell, finding himself up on top of that concrete barricade. Compliments of Eric Stevens, number 31. I think we got some sparks a-flying as we got that vehicle trying his best. And if I was a betting man, I'd say we've got a little bit of Karen Hood taking a hard hit in the nose from the number 44 DX, Don Siciliano. And I think that's going to be it for the number 210. Roger Donnell was running a good derby, but he got just a little bit high-centered on that concrete barricade down at the end. And he started shedding quite a bit of sparkage. I'd say that engine was definitely hitting on the concrete up underneath the number 210 automobile. Like Matt Bowling in the 88's currently stalled out over on the other side of the X01. Sean Petrie out of Manaway, not showing a lot of action. Same way with the 008. Don Blake out of Kent, finding himself stalled out. And I think right in behind him is going to be the number 77 of Larry Baldwin, removing his flag from his doorpost. And the number 442, Chris Buggle out of Ravenna, right track center. Not showing a lot of movement as well. The number 29, I guess that's the 29X, Don Capper. He's got a good sounding machine as he's working around in that black sedan. Like he's got a good power plant up under the hood. Also got a strong sounding engine in the number 86, Brian Schumann out of Carrollton. And he puts the hammer down. Definitely here it's running right. Speaking of running right, Don Siciliano. Whoa, that is going to leave a mark. As the number 86 goes back to back with the 44 TX. Todd Yoho out of Rootstown. Taking a hit, and taking a hit's going to be Karen Hood in the number 27. He got a shot in the nose. That's not slowing her down. Karen's got her refired. The 27 is back in action. Like Don Siciliano's got an old beer keg in the back of his machine, using that for his gas tank. The 86 coming down the pike. Brian Schumann out of Carrollton, slowing up before making a driver's door hit, or at least a very close hit on the 44 TX. Well, it looks like Eric Stevens' nights has come to an end. Eric Stevens in the 31 parked out in the middle of the track with not a lot of movement out of it. Showing the 313, Robert Bloom. He's back underway right now. Looks like he just got his refired and making his way back into contention. Dave Diver out of Cantfield in the 109, the white automobile. I'd say he's got some serious problems, I believe. You can see the 109's time may be limited, because each and every time he shifts the 109, it looks like the whole rear end assembly jumps back and forth. So I'd say it's not going to be too long before we see a drive shaft problem. And I think the 29X may have just pop something loose. If he didn't, it sure sounded like it. And I'd say the 109 night may have just came to an end. That's going to leave a mark. The 44DX Don Siciliano out of Rootstown. Hold him up, hold him up, hold him up, hold him up, drivers, hold him up. Hold him up, hold him up down there. Hold him up. Dave Diver emerging from his white automobile, just lost the drive shaft. He put on a good show working his way around. So let's turn him loose and let him go. Action back underway. And another good hit from Don Siciliano out of Rootstown. He's got a lot of running room. He went down to the other end. He's going to be followed pretty closely by the 29X of Don Capper. Ryan Schumann kind of circling the wagons with the number 27 of Karen Hood out of Randolph. The 44TX Don Yoho. There comes Yoho into the side of the 313. And Karen Hood putting the T-bone shot on the 44TX. Right at track central. She's going back after him again. Just making a glancing blow. Finding herself in a bad spot from the number 86 right there. Robert Bloom's night's going to come to an end in the 313. Robert running a very respectable show. The time had expired. So right now we are down to 5 running vehicles. 5 running vehicles. 4 spots are going to be paid in the feature event. So we'll have to keep a close eye. See which vehicle is going to be. Watch out, because the 44DX Don Siciliano going back to back and bumper to bumper with the 29X of Don Capper. And now's when it's getting serious. Wow, that is going to leave a mark. I think he's going to feel that one come tomorrow morning when he crawls out of bed. Because Don Capper, I don't know if he knew that he was coming. But Don Siciliano put one heck of a good hit on the back of that 29X. Karen Hood in the number 27, going into the radiator, the 86. Brian Schumann out of Carrollton. Brian's going to muscle that 27 down toward the west end of the track. And in comes the 44TX of Todd Yoho out of Rootstown. Looks like we have a couple of them on the timer, the 44DX and the 29X of Don Capper. Don Siciliano managed to get the 44DX going again. He's going to have to slow up a little bit. He did have the driver's door right there. And the 29X back moving again, and he's going to go out, use that nose of his machine as a battering ram as he heads down toward the other end to make contact. 5 vehicles left running. Again, 5 of them running. 4 of them will be in money-paying positions tonight, which means somebody's going to have to go home without being paid here in the large car event. Don Siciliano, pack number 86, Ryan Schumann, in toward the concrete barricade. Looks like we have about 3 of them kind of wedged together. Karen Hood's in that mess, 29X of Don Capper's in there. There was a little bit of a breakaway. He's side by side with the number 86 of Brian Schumann out of Carrollton. And we had a little bit of a neat flame show between the 44 DX. Five pro stockers still battling it out. Don Siciliano tried to flip his way around. He was followed very closely by the number 86, Brian Schumann, taking advantage to make contact, and I think that we may have some broken parts in the steering. I'm pretty much absolutely sure of it that the number 86 may have just did some braking on a tie rod end or something in that steering linkage of number 44DX. And it looks like we're down to 4. Looks like Don Siciliano's removed his flag from his doorpost, taking himself out of contention. So we are down to just 4 vehicles left running. 4 of them left running. All of these are guaranteed money-making spot. That's going to be Karen Hood in the number 27 out of Randolph. He's out there with Brian Schumann out of Carrollton. And the number 86. And I'm not sure what the 86 is hung up on, but he's having some problems right here. The 44 TX Todd Yoho out of Rootstown, and the number 29X still running strong. That's Don Capper out of Ravenna, sponsored by Team Easton. And the 86 Brian Schumann on the clock. I don't know if he's on top of a bumper out there, but I believe he's definitely got something up high centered underneath the number 86. Just not able to get much traction. Karen Hood coming back to the number 27. And the number 86 is going to be finishing in 4th place. Your 4th place finisher, who will receive cash money tonight, is going to be Brian Schumann in that number 86. 3 cars to go. 3 of them still battling it out. Looks like the 44 TX Todd Yoho out of Rootstown has stalled out trying to get that thing started. He's got some smoke belching out from that 44 TX. Karen Hood in the number 27 out of Randolph coming into the side. The 29X Don Capper trying to get his machine spun out from where he's at. Looks like he's got some steering issues on that 29X. He's turning the wheel frantically, just not able to get a whole lot accomplished. The 44 TX Todd Yoho out of Rootstown fired back up and is moving once again. So still 3 vehicles battling it out here in the large car big money round. And we got 2 of them steaming quite a bit. Looks like the number 29X, Don Capper, Lost the radio. No, he's got an overflow tube dancing around. Looks like a pressure cooker under the hood of the 29X. And the 44TX, Todd Yoho doing the same thing. 27. Karen Hood getting a little bit of real estate in between her and the other two vehicles. Going to be going down seeing who the next victim is going to be, but she's going to have to be a little careful to make sure not to make contact with the driver's door on those other two vehicles. She might have to try to split the difference. We got a couple more of them hung up. Karen's going to go back best she can and try to pop them loose. She's an equal opportunity hitter, catching both of them. Splitting the 29X of Don Capper off of the 44TX of Todd Yoho. Karen looking around. There we go. The 29X getting himself spun around. Don Capper out of Ravenna, doing the best work that he can with the limited amount of control of the steering on that number 29. Karen Hood coming back to go and make contact on both of them, making a glancing blow off of both. I'd say the 44TX. And there we go, the 44TX, Todd Yoho going back around. But look at him go, the 29X trying his best. He's just got absolutely no control of the steering. Don Capper making his way down there, slowly manipulating that steering wheel. He's turned it about 100 times right now, and it just doesn't seem to be wanting to do exactly what he's putting in on it. Hopefully he's got enough just to catch to nudge it over there ever so slightly. But that overflow tube definitely dancing around, and I think the 29X got up on top of one of those bumpers, and he may be having a bad night. A bumper falling off a vehicle. Got itself wedged up in under the 29X. I think the only thing he can hope for at present time is that those other two vehicles will make their way down. And that's going to be it for the 29X. So he is going to be finishing in third. Don Capper out of Ravenna, sponsored by Team Easton, is going to be finishing in third place in the number 29X. Now down to the man and one woman. Who will be the strongest driver tonight? The number 27, Karen Hood, representing the ladies tonight. And Todd Yoho in the 44TX out of Rootstown. Battle of the sexes is on right here at your Portage County Randolph Fair. Karen Hood representing the ladies and doing a pretty fine job. She's got a great running vehicle on the number 27. She's hammering away on the 44TX. Karen Hood looking around. She's gonna switch her sights over to the engine compartment of Todd Yoho's machine. She's gonna slow up a bit again, not trying to make contact with the driver's door. Todd bent over, looked like he's working with the battery as well as trying to get it refired. Karen's car really blowing a lot of steam out of the front of the 27 right now. And seems like it's getting warmer and warmer by the minute. And that's going to be it. Time has expired. We have Karen Hood in number one finishing spot tonight right out of Randolph. Second place is going to be the 44TX, Todd Yoho out of Rootstown. Third place, Don Capper out of Ravenna in the 29X. And in the 86, Brian Schumann out of Carrollton. Again, all four of those will be money-paying spots. All four, and there's Karen emerging from her number 27 victorious as your winner of round 2 of the Smash It Demolition Derby. Here's your 2009 Portage County Randolph Fair. Karen Hood taking home the first place prize. Again, second place, Todd Yoho in the 44TX. Third place, Don Capper in the 29X, and the 86, Brian Schumann, will be receiving prize money tonight. Congratulations to all the drivers, and on behalf of Smash It Demolition Derby, we do want to thank everybody for coming out to the show tonight. Please drive safely on your way home, but the night is still young. It's only 9:30.